Democrats face a choice of direction, and could the electric chair return to Ohio? Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Laura Bischoff, State House reporter for the Dayton Daily News. Jeremy Pelzer, State House reporter for Cleveland.com. Herb Asher, OSU political scientist. And Shannon Jones, former state legislator. Call it the end of the preseason, call it still the early season, but in all likelihood, the Democratic field for president will start to narrow in the coming months. The 20 candidates who qualified debated over 2 nights this week in Detroit. There were battles between ultra-liberals and moderates, battles between bold action and incremental steps, battles over a massive health care overhaul, and who regrets past tough-on-crime stances.
Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs for senior citizens. It will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know.
Second of all,
you don't know that,
second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and I wrote the damn bill.
There was nothing done to deal with the police department that was corrupt. Why did you announce on the first day a zero-tolerance policy of stop and frisk and hire Rudy Giuliani's guy in 2007 when I was trying to get rid of the crack cocaine?
Mr. Vice President, there's a saying in my community, you're dipping into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor.
Herb Asher, I still don't know what that means. But anyway, how do you see
one
this?
who was born in Ur, I can tell you.
How do you see this playing out? Do you think Democrats go for the revolution, or do they play it safe and go for somebody who has a realistic chance of beating Donald Trump?
Well, you identified the key thing right now. And Donald Trump is so transparent in telling Democrats how he's going to win. He's going to win if, in fact, the Democrats can be seen as weak on immigration, especially border security, and if Democrats seem to be taking away your private health care choice. So that's out there already. And some Democrats were pointing during the debates, wait a second, let's be reasonable. Let's think about what we really can get done. Let's see what really could be done with respect to the views of the American people. And let's not try to push so hard on our own personal pet project or pet philosophies here. That's going to be the key issue, because I think what's been very clear right now, and I think Trump realizes it, the only way he's going to get reelected is if he can demonize the Democrats. And the way he demonizes the Democrats is not simply to call them socialists, but to basically say they're going to do this on immigration, they're going to destroy our borders, we're going to be overrun, and they're going to take away your health care.
Isn't this
choices.
how primaries usually go? The fringes start out pretty radical, then over the course of the primary season, the campaign, the primary campaign, the people come back in.
This is about what every primary voter has had to decide every presidential election. I mean, you remember in 2004 with the Democrats, they had to decide between Howard Dean, their heart, and then John Kerry, who they mistakenly thought was the more electable candidate. You know, if you look at any competitive primary, you have to weigh in your own head the person who's quote unquote more electable or the person that you want to win.
But Laura, it seems like it's more intense this time, maybe because of Bernie Sanders and how he lost in 2016. His people are still hoping for a second chance. It seems more intense this time.
I think that the Democrats are, I think it is more intense. I think that the Democrats are very fearful that the stakes are so high. They really want to beat Donald Trump. And I think that there's a divide in the party. Some think that the way to beat him is to rally up the base as much as they can, similar to how Donald Trump will rally up his base. It'll be base versus base. And then there's others that say, no, we need to appeal to a wider audience, and we need to do that from the get-go.
Shannon, they're sticking to policy in these debates for the most part. Donald Trump takes his hits, but it's not all anti-Donald Trump all the time. Yeah. The questions, of course, guide them to policy, but you'd think that they would just keep beating on Trump every answer, but that's not happening.
Yeah, it's really been interesting to watch. I mean, typically, you know, I'm sort of used to the Republican Party being the wonky party of policy proposals, but the Democrats are sort of falling into that trap now, and I think they do so at their own peril.
Taking a look at the Democratic candidates for president and how they rank here in Ohio. This was the poll from Quinnipiac. It was released last week, but Joe Biden, sizable lead, 31%. Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, and basically Elizabeth Warren tied at 13 or 14%. Pete Buttigieg back a bit at 6%, the rest further back. Herb, do you think that the debate changed that number at all?
No, I think the debate basically left the candidates who were in the first tier, still in the first tier, we'll start the winnowing process and people will start not meeting the criteria for the September debates, and we'll get to a smaller number, and if we can get to less than 10, then maybe we'll only have one night of debates rather than 2 nights or whatever. But I think that poll that you said, the other thing that was very interesting, though, is that Trump was basically tied with all the Democrats except for Biden, who had a substantial lead. And that, to me, is a statement that the people who were responding to the poll were saying, I don't like Trump, because they can't possibly know who some of these Democrats are.
You know, I think it's a disservice to call these debates. When you have 10 people up on the stage and they're talking over each other and they get only 30 seconds to delve into a complex issue, it's not a debate. It's more like a weird political reality show.
I don't know. I kind of watch these. I think at least I've got a good sample of who these people are, even though there's 20 of them. You know who the sort of the main players are. Was there any other way to do it with this many candidates for the Democrats? You couldn't eliminate folks early on, even though this is cumbersome. And
yeah, I mean, it's a tough position to be in if you're the Democrat Party, because you have lots of interests and lots of choices are good. But at some point, when you have too many choices, I mean, we even see how the ratings around this set of debates has plummeted compared to the previous set of debates. So even among Democrat voters, the most enthusiastic Democrat voters who'd watch this debate are saying, you know, enough of this. We want to move on.
Plus, if you look at that poll, I mean, it's so early. It's so early. I mean, what did Tim Ryan say? The people who have to take a shower after work, those kind of people are not really paying attention to the presidential election yet. And if you notice, speaking of Tim Ryan, if you look at that poll, you notice you didn't see his name on there because he only got 1% in his own state of Ohio. Yeah.
He does okay raising money, but relatively speaking, compared to other Democrats, but he gets a lot of his money from the Youngstown area. So.
I think most people have a fatigue about it. They don't want to dial in this early, whether they shower before or after work. I think that in general people are, you know, they're not that interested just yet.
And there's no celebrity on stage, Herb. In 2016, the summer of 2016, we had the summer of 2015, we had a celebrity, Donald Trump, who was.
Beto has disappointed.
Yeah.
He was the designated celebrity. Yeah. And where is he now?
So of all the other candidates, who do we see emerging as a real contender to Joe Biden? Is it Elizabeth Warren? Can Bernie Sanders pick up any more than he already has? Kamala Harris, Cory Booker did well this week?
I think it's too early to say, but I think if you look at it, if you look at what the past few elections have been, there's going to be Joe Biden, kind of an anti-Biden candidate. And if they can't find an anti-Biden candidate, it'll probably be Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Democrats are losing interest in wanting to learn who the candidates are. I think that they have decided that they want to beat Trump. And the sooner that they realize that the candidate that's going to beat Trump is Joe Biden, I think the better off they're going to be.
But the problem for Biden, and I agree with you, the problem for Biden, though, is that the first major test is Iowa.
Yeah.
It's a caucus state.
Yeah.
It favors those candidates who can mobilize the activists. And the way the caucuses actually work, you meet in precincts and you have your clusters of people who are for Bernie, for Warren, and then if your candidate doesn't get enough votes, you sort of have a second vote in that precinct. And you could imagine all the liberal candidates saying, okay, who's ever ahead, we're going to coalesce behind them. So Biden could do very well on the first round of votes and still get very few delegates. And then the media interpretation will become very important. Did Biden win or did he lose? And probably the answer will be he failed to meet expectations, therefore he lost, therefore he goes into New Hampshire with less momentum or whatever. But we'll see.
President Trump was in Ohio this week. He held a campaign rally in Cincinnati. He railed against Democrats, talked tough on immigration, and touted economic gains.
123,000 more Ohio workers are employed today than when I was elected. Think of that number. And right now, Ohio is the most successful it's ever been in the history of our country. Thank you. Congratulations, Ohio.
Putting those numbers in perspective, that's fewer jobs than were created during a similar time period in President Obama's second term. Ohio ranks 41st in job creation. Still, Ohio's unemployment rate is at its lowest point in 2 decades. Trump's approval rate remains low in Ohio. A recent Quinnipiac poll puts him at 43% approval. More than half of Ohio voters disapprove of his performance right now. Shannon Jones, it seems like he was strongest in that speech when he talked about the economy. You can't argue. You can argue on the edges how strong it is and who's being left out and who's being left behind, but the economy is doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, look, incumbents always are benefited or harmed by the economy. And so it's not surprising that Donald Trump would get some of the credit, or a lot of the credit even, for the strong economy, regardless of what the fact set is. It's no different than any other president.
But he didn't have, he avoided the race baiting and the personal attacks in this speech. Probably wise on his part.
Yeah, but then the next day he tweeted about U.S. Representative Elijah Cummings that his house was broken into, and there was a kind of sarcastic, "Isn't that just terrible?"
Yeah.
So I don't think he's given up on that line of attack. I think it plays well with a lot of his base, and so I think he's going to continue to use it.
He also added some more cities to his list. He said Chicago, San Francisco. He's not just going after Baltimore anymore.
What's interesting about the Quinnipiac poll is that it showed that 58% of Ohioans thought they were better off than they were 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and yet the level of support for the president is very low. So he's not getting the political benefit of a good economy. And one of the reasons is that he gets in the way of his own message, or he gives people so many other reasons not to like him.
Yeah.
And so again, that's where the potential strength of a Joe Biden is. If Joe Biden is the non-Trump candidate in terms of character, integrity, morality, leadership, uniting the country, then that's a challenge for Donald Trump.
I think that in the Democratic debates, they got kind of hung up on a lot of the health care, Medicare for all, et cetera, and they missed an opportunity to really hammer Donald Trump over. He promised that he was going to do a big infrastructure bill to fix things like the Flint water crisis, and that hasn't happened. He promised that he was going to bring manufacturing jobs back to places like Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin, and you got plants closing in Detroit and Lordstown, et cetera. And I think that even though the economy is doing well, the Democrats could, use that line of attack more effectively.
So where is Trump in Ohio vulnerable? Is it the Mahoning Valley, where they've lost the plant up near Youngstown? Is it the farms that are having to deal with these tariffs and the soybeans?
I mean, look, I think those who are the base Republicans are strongly behind Donald Trump.
No matter what.
The base Democrats are going to be behind the Democrat. The question is going to be who's able to add to their, base. And, if I were Donald Trump, I would be looking at that Quinnipiac poll and I'd be saying, head to head against Joe Biden in Ohio, he's down 8 points.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding the really strong economy, to Herb's point. So to me, how we build out that support is what's going to be, most important, and the economy certainly isn't doing it for him.
Donald Trump won in 2016 because he really maximized turnout in these rural counties of Ohio. And it wasn't just, maybe 10,000 more votes in Van Wert County or where have you around Ohio, and that adds up. You had 10,000 times 80 is your 800,000 vote margin. And so, it's if he can keep turnout up, he's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, well, he beat Hillary Clinton by 8 points, and Joe Biden is beating him right now by 8 points. I mean, the middle, what you have to add to your base is eviscerated.
So does that make the campaigns pay more attention to Ohio? We keep hearing that Ohio is pink, Ohio has gone red, Ohio doesn't matter anymore. They're going to spend all their money in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Does that give political consultants, campaigns pause to work in Ohio more?
I don't think that Ohio is as important, as much of a swing state as it used to be. However, I do think that the president cannot take it for granted. Joe Biden could come in and eat his lunch here.
Well, and the fact that the vice president has been here twice this week and he's been here, they're not taking it for granted.
They paid attention to that poll, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think Ohio, as long as they believe it's in play, the investment in Ohio may pay off more than trying to add to the where you're fighting in Arizona or Texas or whatever. Ohio may, in fact, be actually a better target of opportunity.
Do you have to focus on all of Ohio, or can you just focus on the northern cities, Cleveland and Toledo? If you're a Democrat, do you try to boost turnout in those cities, or do you have to? I know all 18 electoral votes are from all of Ohio, but I mean, if resources are limited.
The biggest base of Democrats is in the Cleveland area.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to turn out up there big, or you're not going to win Ohio.
Yeah. But you can't ignore, I think, what you were saying before.
Correct.
You can't ignore the western part of the state. You know you're going to lose a lot of those counties, but it makes a world of difference whether you lose 70-30 versus 60-40. So you have to have some presence. But that means you have to have a candidate that has some appeal also.
All right. The group pushing to repeal the recently passed energy law may soon move on to the next step in the process to get a question on the ballot. The goal is to ask voters to repeal the nuclear and coal plant bailout bill. The question would appear on the November 2020 ballot. The group submitted the initial small number of signatures and petition language. If okayed, bailout opponents will have to collect more than 250,000 more signatures to get it on the ballot. This week, House Speaker Larry Householder complained about outside money funding this repeal effort. Laura, that's kind of ironic, given all the outside money that went into passing this bill or opposing this bill. Does this get on the ballot, do you think, at this point?
Well, they got a heavy lift, and they got a tight time frame. They have to get these signatures in by October 21st. Yeah. But they do have, if they can unite these strange bedfellows, you got like the free market people like Buckeye Institute and Americans for Prosperity, which is the Koch brothers, environmentalists like the Sierra Club, the American Petroleum Institute doesn't like House Bill 6 at all. The Ohio Manufacturers Association is against it as well. So if you can kind of like bring all those groups together and harness the money and the foot soldiers, you might have a chance. However, even if you get it on the ballot, it's going to be like a massive campaign from the utilities to preserve House Bill 6.
And the message will be save jobs versus corporate bailout.
Like, take all the ads that you've heard over the past few months and just multiply it, especially, if you have an anti-side now. Like, it's just going to be millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Well, and it'll be express advocacy, too. It's not going to be so-called educational, call your senator and tell him you're for jobs. It's going to be really tough, hard-hitting stuff.
And it's going to be dark money. You're not going to know. It's going to be these Ohioans for more Ohio or what have you.
Well, the big backer of it has been Generation Now, which is a dark money group. They spent $9.5 million on those ads. And, the whole story about how House Bill 6 became law is really pretty extraordinary. With this massive campaign, this advertising campaign, the Energy and Policy Institute calculated that $1.65 million in campaign contributions from 2017, 18, and early 19 flooded in from the 4 utility companies that stand to benefit from House Bill 6. And I think that, a lot of it had to do with the power struggle for the Speaker's gavel. Larry Householder was supported by Growth and Opportunities PAC, which has links to Generation Now on paper. So it's got an interesting backstory, and I think it's going to have an interesting story going forward.
It's a little ironic that I heard that Householder's complaining about, even though he complained it was Chinese money, so it's foreign money perhaps, but still, it's like, he had to have his tongue planted in his cheek.
Nobody demands consistency.
So the jobs, is that a legitimate argument to save the jobs in these nuclear plants up north?
Well, there's 1,400 direct jobs, about 4,000 total direct and indirect jobs. However, the counterpoint to that from the green energy people is that these energy efficiency standards that are going to be wiped out, all these programs like weatherization and things like that provided like 80 or 82,000 jobs in Ohio. So
and are growing.
Right. So you could say, okay, so you saved 4,000 here, but you lost 80,000 there.
I could never understand why they had to include that harsh attack on renewables to make this bill work. I mean,
well, I think it was to get votes.
Well, but it also, you were generating more opposition. I'm not sure that it got them that many votes, and it gave some Democrats an opportunity to say.
It only passed by 1 vote.
Yeah,
they needed the votes.
Well, it's now provides in terms of opposition to why the environmentalists would say we need to repeal this because we're going to get rid of these damaging things you've done to the renewable.
And by getting rid of those mandates, it lowered the bill, got rid of those fees on your bill to replace them with the fees for the nuclear and the coal plants. So they were able to say your bills aren't going to go up; it may even go down a bit. Yeah. But
in the long term, Ohio's economy and jobs really gets hurt.
And this really isn't a partisan issue. There are Democrats who supported this new law.
It would not have passed without Democratic votes.
Yeah. So this campaign, if it goes to a repeal, there's going to be, especially Democrats in the northern part of the state where these jobs are going to be supporting keeping it, and environmental Democrats saying get rid of it.
You need to take a look at the campaign finance filings next year to see how many of these Democrats get big checks from First Energy or First Energy Solutions.
Well, I know consultants are licking
Yeah,
their
full
chops.
employment.
Yeah, full employment, yeah.
Jobs.
Job creator right there.
All right. Death penalty opponents say it is time for more changes to the way the state prosecutes capital punishment. This came after Mike DeWine this week delayed the execution of a death row inmate for the second time. The governor said the state has not been able to find a drug supplier for a new execution method. A judge in January ruled the old method basically cruel and unusual. DeWine, House Speaker Householder, and Senate President Larry Obhoff will meet to consider other methods of execution. Jeremy Pelzer, does that mean that we're looking at the electric chair or gas chamber in Ohio? Or do we know yet?
It could. The governor made sure to state he specifically avoided saying what kind of execution option he would favor because, as he noted, there is still a pending lawsuit, so he doesn't want to weigh in on that. Ohio's been trying for years, like many other states, has been trying really hard for years, struggling to find execution drugs because most of the major pharmaceutical companies they've been getting these drugs from have refused to sell them because these aren't just like poison drugs. These are drugs that are often used for legitimate medical purposes as well. And so these companies have refused to sell. And in fact, one of the reasons that the governor doesn't want has said that they've struggled to find these drugs is that the companies say, hey, if we find that you're using these drugs to kill people, it's not just about using it. We're not going to just cut off sales of that drug. We're going to stop all the sales of all the other non-execution drugs to the state too.
Because the state was getting around. They weren't buying, it wasn't the prison system buying the drugs. There was another department buying it and then
Mental health.
transferring it over, yeah.
Yeah, so you talk about people losing access to their mental health drugs. That's a big consideration.
Medicaid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like this has been going on now, I don't know how many years, trying to figure out a lethal injection protocol. They have to find a different method if they want to keep executions in the state.
Well, I think it's good that the governor is reaching out to the Senate and House leaders because obviously this is a much bigger question. And it's the type of issue that really has to be debated out in public. And so I view that as a really good first step. And whether, what comes of it, we don't know. But it's going to take a lot of discussion by all the stakeholders, those who are, represent the victims, those who represent the defense bar or the prosecutors. All of that needs to be weighed out in the public.
Do you ever see Ohio going for a firing squad, Herb, or going back to the electric chair? Other states are using this.
Yeah,
they have that option anyway.
No, but I think it's this notion of a humane way to carry out a death penalty is for some people an oxymoron, but they're trying to find something that has the minimum amount of pain and the visuals have to be very, it has to work without having all this suffering or whatever. And it surprises me that they can't find a pharmaceutical way of doing this or a pharmaceutical injection way of doing it, but they're claiming that it's been very, very difficult.
I think that most likely they'll come up with another lethal injection method.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that they're going to bring in a firing squad or bring back Old Sparky or something like that. And there are no visuals. This is there are witnesses. There are independent media witnesses to the executions, but there's no cameras. There's no recording. The documentation is pen and paper.
Yeah, but we've all heard the horrible stories, though.
Right.
So.
What this is going to come down to is that there's a lawsuit pending right now being appealed about the constitutionality of the lethal injection system that Ohio has now, and DeWine and everyone else is going to wait to see what happens with that.
Just waiting to see what that
That's where it stands now.
All right. Let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots. Shannon Jones, you're up first.
I think that if Donald Trump loses Ohio, that he will lose 400 electoral votes. I think it will be a landslide of tremendous proportions, making Ohio really critical.
Herb.
Russian election meddling will be back on the agenda again. Not just the Mueller report, but the U.S. Senate bipartisan report will mean that actually the 50 secretaries of state will now have an opportunity to weigh in terms of how each state's systems are protected from potential meddling.
Jeremy.
I think after the redistricting, after the 2020 census, that Tim Ryan is going to be looking for a new job.
Oh, okay.
He's not going to have a district to run in.
He will run. He's going to file in December for his current term or next term.
Yeah, he's got one more before he has to
All right.
go on unemployment.
And Laura.
Governor DeWine and President Trump discussed the health of the Great Lakes in Cincinnati this week, and we know the Great Lakes states are important to Trump's reelection, so I'm going to predict that there's going to be a new campaign slogan for Team Trump: "Make the Great Lakes great again."
All right, a correction from last week's show. Last Friday, I wished all of the riders at Pelotonia good luck, thinking it was last weekend. It's this weekend. So again, I wish all the riders at Pelotonia good luck and congratulations for raising those millions and millions of dollars to help fight cancer. Good luck and be safe out there this weekend. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, Facebook, Twitter. I think we're on Instagram as well. And you can see each episode on demand on your own time at our website, wosu.org/COTR. For our crew and for our panel, have a good week.